Hey everyone, Jordan Arell here. Wanted to talk a little bit today about something that is a little uncomfortable, actually, in the intactivist world, which is my my intactivist mistakes, my intactivist failures. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that we all have mistakes sometimes, that we're not always all like perfect and the best all the time, and to share the success stories for sure, but also to share when we have struggles, and let each other know that we all fail sometimes, and it's hard, and you hopefully can share that and learn from others, learn from other intactivists and how to overcome these kind of hitches that you have in your intactivist game, so to speak, because children's lives are at stake, children's genitalia at the very least are at stake, and it's a very serious thing. But it's like, you can only do the best you can do, and then you have to face that failure and fail again, fail better. So the first failure I want to talk about is when I was first wanted to do rideshare intactivism, and I would never share it, which to me is kind of a failure in itself, to just like have an opportunity and to not say anything, to not do anything, because I'd be riding with someone and something kind of peripheral would come up, and I'd think about it and I'd want to share it, and I'd just be like too nervous or too scared, and so I wouldn't share anything. I wouldn't say, hey, have you heard of circumcision is genital mutilation and you shouldn't do it? I have this thing I want to share with you. You can, I don't know, there's a lot of different ways you can enter it into a conversation, but I just never did at all. And one time, there's actually a pregnant woman who was in my car, and not only was she pregnant, I was talking with her, I was having a conversation with her, and we were talking about the fact that she was pregnant. She had brought that up and was saying something about it, and I just at this point it was obvious. It wasn't even I couldn't figure out how to bring it up. I was just scared. I didn't want to offend her. I felt nervous. I felt I used to have pretty serious social anxiety. That's actually one of the reasons I became a rideshare driver, was so I could confront that. But here it was also the most traumatic thing in my life before I had even done a lot of the healing work I've done, and it was just so fucking anxiety provoking. I couldn't even make myself do it. I didn't know exactly how to do it, is partly what I was telling myself, at least. But I was I have to tell her, and I was trying the whole car ride. It was only 10 minutes or so, but trying to come up with what to say. How do I tell her if she has a son, she needs to not mutilate his genitals? She needs to research this. And it was killing me. I was thinking about it, and I was so distracted, and I was practically unable to drive. And we got to the end of the car ride, and she got out, and I sat there for a minute after she closed the door, and I couldn't even I wanted to fucking kill myself. I mean, I was suicidal a lot at that time too over this. It was, severe, and I just it fucking killed me. It killed me that I couldn't bring it up with her. And so I'll also mention kind of the way I ultimately made a success out of that. I had a friend who was a rideshare driver, and he had mentioned intactivism, that he had done it before as a rideshare driver. Lawrence Becerra, I believe is how you say his last name, of Colorado ABC. So I right after that, I got him on the phone, and I called him up, and I said, Lawrence, I need help. I don't know how to do intactivism as a rideshare driver. I can't think of what to say, or I just don't know how to do it, and I need your help. How do you do it? What do you? And it was so straightforward how he explained it. It's just it's kind of hard to explain, because it really depends how the conversation is going, but you can just basically relate it to whatever subject you're talking about, and ask them if they've ever considered thinking about circumcision before, or what they know about it, or I can't even remember what he said now. It was just you can just kind of bring it up. it's really simple. There's a few different things you can say. You can bring it up when you're talking about hobbies. If they ask, what do you do for a living, or what else do you do, you can bring it up as something that you do, and say, well, I have a YouTube channel, or where I talk about circumcision. Or you could say, I work with this Intactivist group. Intactivism is the cause that says children should not have their genitals cut, whether they're male, female, or intersex. And then you can kind of segue into it from there and ask them a question, ask them if they've ever heard of that. And there's so many different ways you can kind of segue into it, but it's really just, to me, it was actually just like talking to Lawrence too, and having that that feedback that oh, it's just, you just do it, and then it's kind of like, they respond how they respond, and you just don't even worry about how they respond to it. It's like they will respond or not, and that's kind of up to them. But you don't have to force it on them, and if they really aren't open to it, then that's okay. And they're not going to give you a 1-star rating or something just for bringing it up, unless you maybe really force it down their throat. But you can really bring it up in any way, in so many different ways. And just hearing him say that, and just having that support from him, I was then able to do it. The first time was still pretty hard. It was just with a random woman I was having a really good conversation with, and she was very empathetic, and since then, I've had people laugh in my face about it. I've had people really appreciate the advice, and I've given out a lot of info in ride sharing, and had a lot of different experiences, but it just got easier and easier every time. And I'm so glad that I was able to take that failure and basically just talk to another Intactivist about it, ask him for help, ask him for support, ask him for some advice, and just realize that it was a lot simpler than I made it. And just having someone else who's kind of a step ahead of me really changed how I did it. So that was a really important Intactivist failure that I really learned a lot from. Another was one rideshare case in particular where I met I can't remember, she was going to be an OB-GYN or a pediatric nurse or something. But I decided, I got to bring this topic up, and so I kind of unloaded on her, and I told her everything about it in a really intense, maybe 10-minute rant. It took up most of the ride, and there were maybe there were 3 or 4 minutes left in the ride after I had kind of just unloaded on this woman, without really getting any, right when I learned that, I kind of just started my my speech, and it was really intense. And after I was done, I kind of asked her something, or waited for her to respond, and I think she said maybe one word, and then she was just totally silent. And she clearly somehow really didn't appreciate it, or it didn't register with her, or there was something she wasn't responding, which is very rare. I usually have pretty good responses because I've done this a lot now, and it was a big failure because I didn't communicate back and forth. I didn't listen to her. I didn't ask her if she thought about it or what she knew about it, and I think she might have just thought I was really crazy, or I didn't build that rapport and show her that I was a normal person, so she might have just assumed that I was a total crazy person, or maybe she just shut down because it was too threatening in some way. I don't know, maybe she was Jewish, maybe she had already done circumcisions. I don't know what her thing was. Maybe she was just too scared that she would lose her job, or I have no idea. I could have addressed any of those concerns very effectively, I think, but I didn't have a conversation. And so that was something I learned very quickly, and a friend of mine, Jillian Longley, really helped me understand that you need to listen is as important as speaking when you're talking to people about Intactivism. And as Ron Goldman would say, you can ask them, are you open to learning new information about circumcision? And if they say no, or if they don't want to learn, then that's kind of just about the end of it. I think there's still things you can do, but it's good to get some feedback, to have questions and answers, and and not just kind of unload on people, but ask them, what do they know about it? Do they have any questions about it? And kind of have a back and forth is something I've learned, and really, especially from that failure, it's like, wow, that was, I fucked that one up pretty bad. And she was just silent for the rest of the trip, and I tried to talk to her one more time, and she was just kind of like, she was not having it. So another thing, let's see, there was another failure when I was donating plasma in Minnesota just this last year. There was a woman who was pregnant, and when I found out, I wanted to tell her about this, and I did. I asked her if she knew anything about it, and I said, well, you should. It was really hard with donating plasma because there's only a minute there where you really have a chance to talk with them. And so I kind of tried to explain to her, this is really important. It's really traumatic for some guys, and there's a lot of sexual function that's lost, and you should really look into it and think about it. And she said, well, I kind of thought I would, and in Minnesota, it's not good. It's not. It's hard in Minnesota. It's a lot different than Colorado, I think, or at least it's a little bit. I think it's harder. Or it's different at least, and I didn't get as much experience because I wasn't rideshare driving there. But anyways, this woman, she was kind of like, yeah, I kind of thought I would, and it's cleaner, and I've heard it's what was the other thing? Prevents prostate cancer, I guess, because she was a geriatric nurse, and she'd had a lot of guys who were attacked who had prostate cancer or something, is she seemed to be implying or saying. I was like, I don't think that's actually true, but anyways, I couldn't get her convinced that time, and then the next time I saw her, it took a few times, and I was like just incredibly anxious every time, like trying to be like, okay, what do I say, because she's not like getting it. And I gave her a card that had some info and said, you should check this film out, this American circumcision film. You should really check it out. It's really good. Multiply award-winning film. She said, yeah, I'll probably do that, and I'll talk to my boyfriend. And the final time I saw her before she had her baby, she said, yeah, I had talked to my boyfriend about it, and we decided we're just going to do it just because it's cleaner, and the prostate cancer thing. And no, I didn't watch the film. I looked at your info card, but I think it's probably better to do it. And like, I just, like, at that point, I was so in a traumatic, terrible state, and like having practical panic attacks every time I went in to donate plasma. I actually missed a couple times because my heart rate was too high, and they take your heart rate, and so I was losing my only source of income that I actually had at that point because of my disability with my knees and my wrists. And like, for this one child who I didn't even know if it was a boy or a girl because she didn't get the sex checked, and and she had her baby and it was a girl, so I guess I lucked out, but ultimately I failed. Her baby would have had his genitals mutilated, and any future baby she has will have his genitals mutilated because I couldn't convince her. And I just, the last time she said it, I said, I think you should really check this out. It's literally the bane of my existence. Like, I don't know what else to say. And I was trying to like come up with something, and I just couldn't. And she said, I guess agree to disagree. And then she stuck the needle in my vein to do the plasma, and it's like it hurt so bad. It's like it felt literally like every genital mutilation that's ever happened. This little pinprick of a plasma donation needle. It's like, God, that really fucked me up. That was a pretty traumatic experience in and of itself. Like, that I couldn't convince this woman after doing all this Intactivism and all this shit and hundreds of YouTube videos and literally having written the book on circumcision trauma. I couldn't convince one woman to not mutilate her child's genitals. That was bad, and like, I don't even know what I gained from that one, except I did a lot more healing work since then, and realize that, sometimes you can't win, and you can't like sacrifice yourself to the point where you're sacrificing your only source of income to save one child from genital mutilation, when literally, I can do projects. I have projects in the pipeline that will save millions of children from genital mutilation. I can't you kind of have to focus sometimes, and realize that you can't win every battle is the best I can come up with, what I learned from that, because I did my best, and that was pretty crushing. But you do the best you can, as I said, and you can't win every time, and you do have to focus on where you can have the most impact, because some people just don't listen, and they just don't fucking get it, and it's like talking to a brick wall. I like this woman a lot too. She was funny. She seemed pretty cool. She actually reminded me of my first girlfriend, who I really liked, and like it was really fucking depressing. But Intactivism is a hard thing sometimes. So that was that failure. Maybe one more thing I'll talk about is just my 4gen podcast. I felt was pretty terrible. They were good, but I was such a perfectionist about it. I spent so many hours trying to make each 4gen podcast. What did we call that? The Missing Piece podcast. If you watch them, the episodes were pretty good. That was my first content. It was by far the most polished, just crisp, powerful content I've made in some ways, because I spent so much time on it, and working with these other Intactivists to perfect the messages and to perfect the questions and to get just the best podcast humanly possible. And it was really stupid in the end, because I realized actually those podcasts didn't really matter, and I spent so long trying to get them perfect and to get them right that I lost the gig, because Tyler said, we just decided to go in a different direction. A year after I was supposed to make the podcast, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I've done enough healing work. I feel like I can do this again. And because I felt like everyone had to be so perfect, and it took me so long to do each one, they ended up just not happening at all. Basically, I got 4 of them in total. Now I've made hundreds of videos that are just a lot of them are incredibly good content, I think. And I just make the video, I just do it. Sometimes I put more work in than others, but I guess learning to not be such a perfectionist about things. There are times that it matters. There are times, but usually you can really do a lot more if you just do your best each time, and then learn as you go. And in the time that it takes you to do 10 videos, you can instead just do 1 video and iterate so fast and iterate so many times that you eventually really can build up in a way that you can't with highly perfectionistic content. And I'm not saying that that's a little bit of a fine line, because sometimes it is better to really perfect a message if you're creating a documentary, or if you're creating a really critical piece of content that's your main thing that you're creating or something. But a lot of the time, it's really actually, and in this case, it would have been good for me to just do it, to just do it every month, to just do a podcast, to think of some questions, ask them, kind of figure out as I go, and it would have been, it could have been something really cool, and instead it kind of petered out and was a big loss. I think I still wish I was doing the 4gen podcast, because now it's kind of a different, 4gen's gone in a different direction, which is. It's good. It's just not my preference. I think kind of accessing the Intactivist movement more would be an effective route. But anyways, perhaps we will at some point. So I don't think it's legal to actually have this headset on when I'm driving. I'm not sure, but I don't really want to take any risks with the highway patrol, so I'm not going to. And that's about it for today. Those are 4 failures. I've certainly had a lot more than that, but those are 4. I'd like to hear from you. What are your failures? Have you ever failed in Intactivism, and what do you do about it? What do you learn from it? I think it's such an important thing, facing our failures and really learning from them and confronting them and talking about them. And it's like, it's okay. We do our best, and we always, know better, do better, as they say. That's not a fun phrase for a lot of circumcised guys who are like, I really wish you would have done better the first fucking time. But like, I get it. It's not easy being a regret parent either. I can imagine, at least for some regret parents who really get it. So that's also another topic that is controversial, and I will not go into right now. Love to hear about your failures, and I will talk to you later.